All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. My name is Heather Deer, and I'm the Director of Family Engagement here at William and Mary. Welcome to our Tribe Transition webinar series. I'm sure you've seen a few webinars already. We've released some really hot topics like room selection, pre-orientation programs, and of course, Tribe Guide 101. Today is a special topic. We're going to be talking about the transfer, family, and student experience at William and Mary, as well as some upcoming events that you may be aware of. I'm really excited that we have Team Transfer on the call today to give us the ins and outs about the transfer experience. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our presenters, allow them some time to get ready. Q&A is going to be open throughout this session, so if you have any questions at any point throughout the session, please do pop into the Q&A and ask those. Also, this session is being recorded and you'll be able to access it like all of our other webinars in our Tribe Transition webinar series throughout the summer, as there will be some really great resources I know that our presenters will share today. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Shelley.
Great. Thank you so much, Heather. I'm really excited to be here to talk to our incoming transfer families. I'm going to share my screen. Um, and as Heather mentioned, this webinar is kindly presented by Team Transfer. We're a ragtag team of misfits. No, just kidding. We are a group of colleagues from around campus that are all focused on transfer student success and making sure that our transfer students get started on the right foot. So before I get too far into things, I want to make sure that we all get the chance to introduce ourselves really quickly. So my name is Shelley Lorenzo. I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education in the College of Arts and Sciences, and I also serve as the Chief Transfer Officer for William and Mary, which means I work really closely with the Virginia Community College System on transfer pathways for our students. And then next on my list is Lauren.
Hi, everyone. Good to see folks. I'm Lauren Garrett. I'm with Student Transition Engagement Programs, or STEP, and we're the office that supports undergraduate students from the time of deposit up until commencement or graduation. So looking forward to sharing a little bit more about the transfer experience for families specifically during our time together today.
Thanks, Lauren. And then Miranda.
Hi everyone, my name is Miranda Slade. I am the Transfer Services Coordinator in the Office of the University Registrar. So my job is basically transferring all of your credit from previous institutions to William and Mary to kind of get you started on that. And let's see what else. I am excited to be here just to kind of talk about some summer things to keep in mind as far as transfer credits go.
Yeah, thanks, Miranda. So as you can see, for our agenda for our time today, we're kind of going to run through each of our areas, talk a little bit about what we do, and really highlight what's happening over the summer to make sure your transfer student has a strong start in August. So the Advising Center, let me talk about that. So the Advising Center serves all undergraduate students. It's a group of professional advisors who work really closely with our faculty advisors to ensure students have access to all the information they need to be successful during their time here. They're located on the second floor of UL. I'm actually on the first floor, so they're right up above me. Well, not today because the air conditioning is working, but normally they're right up there. So within academic advising, what does that mean here? So our academic advisors can assist with monitoring degree progress, course selection, registration, making connections to opportunities. So as students start thinking about things like research opportunities or study abroad, or maybe looking at postgraduate fellowship opportunities, our academic advisors can start laying that groundwork with students and then pointing them in the right direction, getting them to the right people to pursue those opportunities. Navigating challenges and identifying resources. So for example, you're in that first semester writing seminar. We want to connect you with our Writing and Communication Center so you have all the tools in place to really knock that essay out of the ballpark. Or you're in that stats class and it's just not clicking the way you thought it would. We want to connect you with academic well-being and the tutor zone to make sure that you're resourced up to ace that first exam. And then also talking about post-graduation goals. and connecting you again with the right offices. Maybe it's our Office of Career and Professional Development on campus. Maybe you're looking at graduate school, whatever that is. Our academic advisors can kind of help piece those resources together for you. So what does summer advising look like? So in the summer, all of our incoming students will have access to College Studies, which is an online short course to help students learn more about the institution, the liberal arts education, and then the mechanics of registration. That course is taught by peer advisors. So these are fellow undergraduate students who volunteer their time in the summer to help incoming students navigate that transition to academic life here at William and Mary. Part 1 of College Studies, again, is really focused on the liberal arts curriculum and then preparing for registration. So making sure students have access to all the information they need. So we start really big picture. What is the liberal arts and sciences at William and Mary, all the way down to how do I register for a class that I need? So we want to make sure students are prepared for that registration window by completing Part 1 of College Studies. Part 2 is how to use and find information. And so that our swim library on that piece to make sure students understand all the resources that are available to them when they step foot in the classroom on that first day, and how to access the variety of tools that we have for students to be successful here. So that's all baked in College Studies, which again is an online short course that our students will complete this summer. So what does advising support look like? So I talked a bit about the professional advisors. Again, we have a group of professional advisors located in the Advising Center that are always available for students to touch base and ask questions. They're here this summer. Again, if your student has questions, if things aren't clear, please refer them to the Advising Center. They're here to help. At William & Mary, we also have a faculty advising model. So all students are assigned a faculty academic advisor. This summer, we will take some information that your student shares with us to match with our faculty advisors as a pre-major advisor. So this is before they declare their major. And a pre-major advisor can really help you understand our liberal arts curriculum here that we call the CALL curriculum, navigate if they know what majors they're interested in, maybe help them identify some of those initial courses they might want to take and to explore, and just overall adjusting to the academic culture here. Once a student declares their major, they will then switch advisors to their major advisor. So again, another faculty member, but in that department or program where the student has declared their major, and that advisor will really help them work through all the mechanics to complete their major and graduate on time. See, is what we're aiming for. So what does advising in the first year look like for your student? So now in June, hopefully your student is following the Tribe Guide checklist. We're going to ask students to complete the new student inventory. That really helps us in advising to make those matches with pre-major faculty advisors. So we're going to try as much as we can to sync up your student's intended first or second major with a faculty member that's in that department. So in this month in particular, we're asking your student to complete that piece of the Tribe Guide checklist, and Lauren will talk in more detail about what that looks like. Late June, early July, that's when we're going to roll out College Studies. Your student's peer advisor is going to reach out to them. This is also a good time for me to remind your student to check their William & Mary email. That's how our communications will be coming out, is through the William & Mary email, so make sure your student is checking that regularly. So they'll have a peer advisor to walk them through College Studies, or online short course. We want them to complete that by early July, and then late July is when your student will have the opportunity to register for their fall classes. Once we get into August at orientation, your student will have the opportunity to meet with that faculty advisor, and then they'll also have the opportunity to make adjustments to their schedule, finalize their schedule. There are basically 3 different points for students to work through planning their fall schedule. So we have the July window, we have August at orientation, and then we have the add drop window. So sometimes students are a little anxious, maybe things didn't go exactly the way they wanted their first round of registration. That's okay. That's why we build in these multiple instances for student to complete their schedule. So if it doesn't go exactly the way they wanted the first time, that's okay. They have time. If they have questions, refer them to the Advising Center. We'll help them strategize what to do next. So once we get past that kind of initial fall window, we're settled into our fall classes. Then in October, November, their pre-major advisor will reach out and we're going to start talking about spring classes and spring registration. So we want to make sure students touch base with their advisor at that point in time. In January, that's when fall grades will post. And again, students can finalize their spring schedule. Then mid-spring is when students will have the opportunity to then register for the next year. And so that's kind of, again, a really quick overview of what that first year in advising will look like. So we work with them really heavily in the summer and in August to make sure they're off to strong footing in August, touch base in October, November for the next semester, touch base in January once grades are posted, and then touch base in March, April, looking at the next academic year. So with that, I am now passing the baton over to Miranda, our colleague in the registrar's office.
Perfect.
And Miranda,
Hi,
I'll run
everybody.
live point.
Oh, cool. Just to say hi again, my name's Miranda Slade. I am the Transfer Service Coordinator in the Office of the University Registrar. We're housed in Blow Memorial Hall, and right across from the Chick-fil-A and the Wawa when you get to campus, if you ever need to find us. We have a bunch of different things going on in our office. I'm sure at some point during your time at William and Mary, you'll end up in the registrar's office for one reason or another. Could be domicile, veterans benefits, help with registration. All sorts of things happen through our office, but I am the person in the transfer world that is currently going through everyone's transcripts and previous credits, test credits, dual enrollment, previous institution, and trying to get those credits to your William and Mary account. You can click the next one. Thank you. So some things to think about over the summer, your transfer credit summer to-do list. There is homework this summer, unfortunately. Currently, we are going through the spring 2026 final transcripts with your final 2026 grades, and trying to get those into your account. If you have not done so, please go look at your banner or DegreeWorks and look at the credits that have been transferred so far. You may or may not see the spring 2026, depending on where you are in the line. We will go through final transcripts as admissions receives them, in that order. So you may not see them yet. We're still working on them. As we go through those, we're adding student attributes to your account, like social class, any associate's degrees that you've received, and the waivers for those. So if you see your spring 2026 credits, you should also see a change to your social class or any associate degree waivers if you have those. But if you don't see any of that yet, we just haven't gotten there, if you've turned in the transcript. But please do go look at those, because if you're missing anything or you see something that doesn't look right or something you should have received credit for or you think you should have received credit for, it's important for you to look at those now so that we can get that all settled before you get to William and Mary in the fall. Speaking of final transcripts, please send in your final transcript. We don't just automatically receive those. You do have to order those to be sent to William and Mary. So if you finish your spring 2026 classes and you haven't done that yet, please go do that as soon as possible. If you are taking summer classes, I would still recommend sending in a final transcript with spring grades, and then once your summer courses are done, sending in another one, just so that we can get those on your record. The summer courses can come later, but it's, just for the sake of having things sorted out sooner rather than later. If you're taking summer courses, you will have to send another final transcript after those are done. So please don't forget to do that later in the summer. A little thing about VCCS and associate degree students. The VCCS schools will have post final grades. You'll graduate and they do not post the associate's degree to your transcript until a few weeks later. So if you rushed, you were so excited about your final grades, and I get it, and graduation, I completely understand. If you rushed to then send your transcript to William and Mary, it's probably missing the associate's degree on that transcript. And if we don't see it on the transcript, we don't post the waivers for that. So I would encourage you to go check that transcript and make sure that the associate's degree is on there. If your spring 2026 courses are added and you don't see the associate's degree added, it's probably because it wasn't on there yet. So you'll have to send another transcript. We don't really have a better way of kind of working with the VCCS schools for that. It's kind of one of those things where it takes them a couple of weeks to process those and add them to transcripts. And unfortunately, students are just so excited to get their final grades and send off that final transcript, and it's just missing the associate's degree. So just a word for you guys, if you've sent the final transcript sometime in May, it's possible it's missing the associate's degree. And we need that listed on the transcript to add the waivers. So please do make sure you're checking for that. One final thing about summer transfer credits are examination credits. So AP, IB, CLEP, things like that. We do not take those test scores off of previous high school transcripts or college transcripts. If you received credit for them at a VCCS school, we don't take those credits off of that transcript. We need the official scores to be sent to William and Mary separately. So you will need to order them to be sent from the testing company to William and Mary. In case you haven't done that, something to keep in mind. A lot of people will do the free score send in early July. So if they're not here yet because they're a part of that free score send, don't worry about that. But if you have not yet made a plan for getting those to William and Mary, now is the time to start thinking about those. Let's see, just kind of a final thing, transfer credit isn't an exact science. It's a process that does kind of take time and sometimes takes a lot of the summer to get done. So if you're missing anything, please reach out to transfer credit. If it's a course that you feel like you should have gotten credit for or you're wondering why you didn't, always reach out and ask. We sometimes just weren't sure how the course might transfer to William and Mary, in which case we would ask for a syllabus, and we'll work with the departments at William and Mary to kind of try and figure out a way for that to transfer. Sometimes it just doesn't transfer, in which case we can give you a specific reason for why it wouldn't be eligible for transfer credit. Sometimes I'm just a girl, I'm only human. Sometimes I miss a course, I'm hand typing them all in. And so, every once in a while there's a course that should have received credit and it was just missed and it was an accident, and we can add that to your record. But we don't know about it unless you let us know. So just keep that in mind as you're looking over your summer credit stuff, and let us know if you have any questions.
Miranda, I have a quick question before we move on. If they have submitted their AP scores for the original transfer application, do they need to submit them again?
So if you only submitted it, like you just listed the test scores out in the application, that's not official. We have to have them officially sent from College Board to William and Mary. So that's logging into your College Board account or your IB account and then ordering them to be sent to William and Mary, which does come directly to us, but that's separate from admissions. So if they've already ordered them to officially be sent during the admissions process, we have them. If you just listed them out in your application, like I took this test and got this score, in the admissions application, it's not official, so we would not have record of that. It'll have to be officially sent.
Thank you.
All right, Lauren.
Okay. I am going to defer to Miranda real quick because another question just popped up in the Q&A that I want to make sure we're staying on topic before we move to the next. And that's a question about what's the timing about reaching out to you, Miranda, around transfer credit? Should they wait until students have completed that degree audit in college studies before they reach out to you if they're not seeing something? Should they wait until August after they've done some course registration to give you some time? What's a preferred timeline on your end for inquiries?
It's complicated because it kind of just depends. So, if it's something about credit that is older than spring 2026, I would say reach out now, just so we can get the ball rolling on that. Because, minus a couple of people who were just admitted a couple days ago late, everybody's preliminary evaluation of credit that you've submitted prior to spring 2026 should be done. So if it's a question about credit before spring 2026, I would say reach out now. If it's something about spring 2026 and you haven't seen an update to your social class or anything like that, we're probably still working on it. You'll kind of be able to see the credit and your social class change and some waivers in your degree works. There will be multiple changes at once. If you haven't seen that yet, it's probably just because we haven't gotten to it yet. And once you see that change, I would reach out about any 2026 spring credits or your social class or anything like that at that time.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Miranda. All right, so we're going to transition a little bit into what we do with STEP. I'm as I've said before, and I know we've had some folks join us in progress. I'm Lauren. I'm with Student Transition Engagement Programs, or STEP. We are co-located with the Office of Residence Life and the Campus Living Center, which is just behind the Sadler Center on the way to the West Woods Residential Complex. So we have a beautiful view right now of some bright and sunny trees and the beautiful pedestrian bridge. So come visit us when you're on campus. You can also see we have a lovely patio. So we love to sit outside and enjoy the beautiful weather here in the Berg while we have it. Our office is really about making sure that all undergraduate students from deposit to commencement feel supported, that they're aware of resources, and that they're finding their people, places, or things during their undergraduate experience. So to talk a little bit about that, I'm going to get into some nitty-gritty about STEP. So next slide, please. So we are broken down into 4 general areas. We have an assistant director who handles orientation. Kenzie is responsible for orientation programs that support both our first time in college class of 2030 students, as well as a specialized orientation program for our transfer students. And so that's important for you all as families to know that yes, all incoming new to William & Mary students are required to complete orientation. However, their orientation program looks different than the traditional freshman first year in college student experience, because we know on some level they've experienced a college university academic classroom experience prior. And so much of their orientation is spent, as I'll talk a little bit about in a future slide, about how William & Mary might look different, what policies might look different, what the curriculum is, and how we can help students engage and get involved here on campus. Following the culmination of orientation, transfer students specifically will move into transition and persistence and affinity programming with Jenna and Reagan, who are each respective assistant directors of those 2 areas. With Jenna and transition, each transfer student this fall is assigned a transition coach who works with a cohort of transfer students specifically to make sure that they have the resources and supports in front of them, regardless of if they live on or off campus, if they're commuting from Williamsburg or further away, if they're full or part-time. We want to make sure that there is a peer level resource who is available to support them, to help them navigate what decisions and choices they may have in front of them, especially during the course of those first 2 semesters. And then Reagan and her initiative directors are responsible specifically with helping transfer students find affinity with one another, not just during orientation and those first few weeks on campus, but throughout their time at William & Mary, whether that's 2, 3, 4, or maybe 5 or 6 years if they choose to pursue graduate student work with us as well. And then I'm the last piece of the puzzle. I sort of focus on the general administrative pieces of the program, and I'm here to support and to provide liaison sort of services with others across campus. So let's jump in a little bit into orientation. So next slide. This is a tentative overview of orientation so that you as families understand what's happening between that Friday through Tuesday process. New student move-in for those that are choosing to live on campus will occur on Thursday. Community building activities will occur Thursday night. However, they are not formally required. However, we do know that many of our incoming students will experience a little bit of FOMO if they're living on campus and they don't participate in those Thursday evening programs, because it'll feel like everyone else is and I will somehow miss the boat. So Thursday evening, once you've moved your student in, if they're choosing to live on campus, just note that sort of the dinner time or just prior to dinner time might be the time that you say, see you later, and you start to embark on your specific orientation opportunities. Friday is when undergraduate student orientation will kickstart. On that day for students, we're focusing on academics, engagement, and that evening we culminate with our ever popular late night at Campus Rec. We really want to encourage and make sure that transfer students know that all of the resources, opportunities, and engagements that are offered to sort of that traditional first time in college freshman student, that it's not just for them, it's not just for the class of 2030, it is for all incoming students. And so everything we do during orientation is open and encouraged for all new students to attend. While we are going through the student programming on Friday, there's also family orientation happening, offered through Family Engagement with Heather and Taylor. And family orientation for transfer families actually we find to be one of the biggest indicators and support metrics for student success, because we want you to continue being those cheerleaders that you are for your students. We want you to know about engagement opportunities. We want you to know about academic supports. We want you to go through the resource fair at family orientation and pick up all the swag and pick up all the brochures. So when your student reaches out and says, "Ooh, that test was harder than I thought it was, I'm not quite sure what to do," you can continue to be that resource and say, "Well, we heard about this thing during orientation. Maybe you heard about it too. Have you considered reaching out to the Writing and Communication Center?" Just as an example. And so make plans that just because you're a transfer family doesn't mean that you maybe shouldn't consider attending family orientation on Friday. We start large group in Kaplan. We move over to the School of Education with more of a conference style round robin opportunity with particular sessions. And I believe the draft schedule is already up and moving on the website itself. And so I'm sure Heather and Taylor can drop a link for us in the chat as I'm chatting. For students, after we've sort of covered the core of academics and engagement, we move into community values and expectations on Saturday. Sunday, we focus on belonging, health and wellness, what it means to balance coursework, external opportunities, internal opportunities to the university, and really making the most of your time at William & Mary on Sunday. Monday is a hotbed of activity for academics. We do academic advising. All transfer students will be required to meet with their pre-major advisor on that Monday, so that on Tuesday they're prepared to finalize their course registration. What's also fun about Monday and Tuesday is that we have 2 nights, yes, not just one night, but 2 nights of the Student Org and Club Fair. We have close to 500 student organizations here on campus that are all student run and managed. And let me just tell you, that is a hotbed of activity for our transfer students. Chances are they're going to try to find ways to get involved. And so Monday night, typically we see 2 or 3 different types of student organizations represented. And then on Tuesday night, you see the the other 2 or 3 versions or types of organizations represented. So we make sure that we sort of spread the wealth so that all interests are represented. And we have close to usually about 200 to 250 organizations each evening set up in and across the Sadler Center common spaces to talk to students, to have them sign up for interest sheets, etc. And so we really encourage our transfer students. So even if they're not living on campus, encourage them to stick around for evening programs, because that's often where the connections are made socially with one another and with other students across campus, especially on that Monday and Tuesday evening. So orientation for us is jam-packed. It takes those first sort of 5 days. If your students are going to be commuting from home with you, they will probably come home a little bit tired, a little bit exhausted, and then they'll get up the next day and do it all over. And we promise there is fun at the end, because on the first day of classes, Wednesday, next slide, we have convocation. And convocation is live streamed. It's slated to kickstart at 7:15 p.m. So we encourage you to watch it from the comfort of your own home. And convocation is really special because it's an opportunity for the entire community to come together and kickstart not only the start of the year, but to officially welcome our incoming students. Incoming students meaning undergraduate and graduate students. And so what you're seeing here in the pictures is literally most families will be able to see their student cross through the Wren portico and enter the Wren courtyard as we're live streaming. And then they're greeted on the other side by a bevy of upper level students who can't wait to high five, to shake their hands, and to officially welcome them into the community. I will say that convocation is one of our most popular streaming events, and it is recorded. And so if you're not able to join us live and watch things live, you are welcome to come back and view that on YouTube, on the William & Mary YouTube channel. We have families that will screenshot their students and send them a picture and say, "Oh my gosh, I just saw you. Look how happy you are." We've even had some families that will reach out and say, "Oh my gosh, we saw you. I can't believe that's what you chose to wear." Or chose to wear. And so the parenting never stops, even during big traditions like this. But convocation is one of those pinnacle traditions at William & Mary that we're super excited for you to experience as a transfer family. And our transfer students talk a lot about how they didn't sort of understand the impact of joining William & Mary until they walked through convocation and they saw how happy people were to say hi to them and to welcome them. So please mark your calendars for Wednesday, August 26th, as well as family orientation that prior Friday. So once we get through orientation and convocation, and it feels like all that celebration has sort of wrapped up, we move into transition programming. And this diagram probably looks like a lot for you to digest at this moment, and this is the beauty of getting that recording after the fact. But as families know that transition has already started for your transfer students with the start of that My Tribe Guide checklist. So the Tribe Guide checklist is, while it's generically presented on the website, when your student logs into their My Tribe Guide portal, it is customized for their unique experience. The very first thing on their checklist to complete is that new student inventory. The answers they are providing in that new student inventory are dictating some of the tasks and some of the information that is being provided to them on subsequent task list items. And so if your student self-identifies as a first-generation college student, they're going to be receiving specific information about being first generation here at William & Mary and the support and resources offered to them. If your student notes that they are military connected, that is then going to indicate additional information coming to them about being a military connected or affiliated student and the resources and supports that are available to them based off that population identity. And so making sure that your student has logged into their My Tribe Guide and is keeping tabs on their checklist, both now and moving forward throughout their time at William & Mary, is going to be critical to their success, because that's often where we're going to push out a lot of sort of our larger events or opportunities that we want students to be aware of that we feel like are really foundational to the William & Mary experience as a whole. So the checklist has already started. It's going to move with your student throughout the course of their undergraduate experience. And then the first 6 weeks of the fall semester, they're going to be engaged in what we call weeks of welcome. And this is the first 6 weeks, which leads us right up to fall break, where students are going to be, what's going to be shared with students are some signature events that are happening that are about welcome, that are about opportunity, that are going to be about engagement. And this is where our transfer students are going to start to get targeted invitations to attend transfer specific opportunities offered by our office and our initiative directors, which I'll talk about in the next slide. But weeks of welcome are open to all students of all level. Just because a student is a first year student doesn't mean they're the only ones looking for new opportunities. Our undergraduate students are constantly looking for ways to explore new passions, maybe change course a little. And so weeks of welcome will be everything from academic to social, to wellness opportunities, as well as professional development and career development as well. So Weeks of Welcome is something for you all as families that you can also track. Our Weeks of Welcome website is public. The events are listed online through the William & Mary events calendar. And so if your student calls and they say, I'm just not quite sure what I should do, I'm not quite sure what I should attend, maybe they're not seeing something that they feel like might be of interest, you have the ability to help walk them through that Weeks of Welcome calendar, or to peruse yourself and maybe make a suggestion based off of what you're seeing. So you can help us be a partner in your students' transition success by educating yourself a little bit on what's to come within those first 6 weeks. That calendar will populate as we get closer to August. We rely on clubs and orgs to share with us their opening welcoming activities, as well as departments and academic units. And so we look forward to populating that calendar shortly. And then subsequent things that are going to be happening for your transfer student, they're going to be hearing about something called Finding Your Experience. All first year students spend their first semesters helping with us, helping to help them find their William & Mary experience, their people, their places, their things. Transition coaches are critical in this process, as they are alongside them through this process, presenting Thriving Thursday opportunities, helping them engage and connect with each other. And then once a student moves through that first year, that first semester, they move into forming, where we help them start to think deeply about what are they engaged in, what are they passionate around. If they have not yet declared their major, this will be about the time that they will do that. And then as they move into their last year at William & Mary, once they declare intent to graduate, we move them into focusing their experience. So thinking about how is what they've done at William & Mary translated into skill sets and opportunities for postgraduate life, staying connected with William & Mary, but also taking those skills and translating them into the workforce, the workplace, graduate studies, etc. So transitioning at William & Mary is not just about the incoming student, it is about a holistic program from start to finish. And so alongside those transitions are the persistence pieces. And so some of you may already be familiar with our stepping stones and our home base opportunities. Here we want to make sure that students are continuing with us. We want to make sure that they're staying connected. They're finding places and spaces of potential interest before they even arrive on campus. And so we encourage you that if your student is sort of struggling with the questions about how can they make connection, where can I meet people, stepping stones might be an opportunity for them, as well as home base. Within our initiative directors, we actually have an initiative director who focuses in on transfer students and their support needs throughout the course of the year. And as you can see there, they will be the individual that helps us pull together programs alongside team transfer, alongside other folks across campus, to make sure that transfer students are able to celebrate this identity, to get resources put in front of them that might be unique to them, and to also get reminders about timelines that might look a little bit different for them than it would for our class of 2030 students. So again, making sure that they're checking in on that Tribe Guide checklist as they move through that first year, that second year, that third year, to make sure that they're getting the information at hand. And then lastly, I do want to share with families, because I want you to know that we are here to celebrate your student success as well at William & Mary, academically as well as socially. And so the first the two first-year honor societies that we promote here at William & Mary, Alpha Lambda Delta and Phi Eta Sigma, are open to first-year transfer students as well. Students who achieve a 3.5 semester GPA in either their first or second semester at William & Mary are invited to join. It is not a spam email when they get that congratulations message. And these are honor societies that carry weight, not just here at William & Mary, but nationally and internationally, to showcase that students are accomplished scholars. And these are both organizations that offer out scholarships as well as study abroad supports. And so if your student is invited to join as a result of stellar academic achievement, first or second semester at William & Mary, we highly encourage that they take us up on that invitation and they join. So persistence is about helping our transfer students find one another, find commonality, and also continue to build those networks, both as students and as alums. One of the fun programs that we actually do is during homecoming, we do a transfer networking homecoming event where alums who also were transfer students can connect with current transfer students typically before the football game, and have a little cookout. And we've had great success with helping students sort of connect with others in industries and areas that they might want to go into post. And it's just a nice way to build community during and after your time at William & Mary proper. All right, so I've talked about orientation, transition, and persistence. I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk now a little bit about what it means to live on campus as a William & Mary student. For those that may have done the research online, we do have a 2-year residency requirement for students that are joining us immediately following high school graduation. That is typically not the case with transfer students. And so housing would love to have transfer students live with us on campus, but it is not a requirement. If your student is interested in living on campus, hopefully they've completed the housing application and contract. It was due this past Friday. However, if they are interested, they can still submit their housing application and contract because housing selection has not yet occurred and it will occur later this month. During the 17th and 18th of June, I believe, is when they will select housing. That's also when, if your student has determined that they have someone that they would like to live with and have selected a roommate, that's when they will need to share that information in the process of selecting their space on campus. And then living on campus means that they need to move in. So you'll want to make sure that they select a move-in appointment on that Thursday prior to orientation so that you can get them in, you can get them settled, you can get them taken care of. When living on campus as a transfer student, that means that transfer students will actually reside in our upper level halls across campus. We're in the middle of a comprehensive housing and dining. I like to call it an extravaganza. There's a much more formal term for it within the university, but what's really exciting is that our students are really influencing the legacy of on-campus living for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And so as we are building buildings, as we are rethinking structures and neighborhoods around campus, your students are going to be an active part in that process with feedback. What do they want? What do they like? What do they prefer when living on campus? And so living on campus right now is a really exciting process for our students. And so if your student has any interest in that, make sure that they log into their My Tribe Guide portal, they find the link to the housing application and contract, and they go ahead and they complete that so that we can make sure that they select and that they get a move-in appointment for later in August. All right, so we've talked about STEP. We've talked a little bit about the residential experience, and I'm sure there's some folks that are like, well, we just like to know more about what we can expect and can we come look? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can come look. Join us actually next Monday, June 8th. Yes, June 8th, from 9 to 4 p.m. here in beautiful Williamsburg. Hopefully the beautiful weather we've ordered up will stick with us through that Monday as we host our annual Transfer Welcome Day. This is a day for transfer students and their supporters to meet one another, to meet us in person, to meet with academic advisors and folks who can really start to help them lay the foundation curricularly. Miranda's going to do some drop-in hours to look at some credit evaluations. And we'll also be having some presentations around residential living. Folks will talk about engagement and involvement as well as career development. And so there's a whole host of folks that are looking forward to meeting you and your students if you're able to join us in person on that day. If you're not able to join us for Transfer Welcome Day, don't fret. Much of the information that is being shared on this day will be replicated and shared as part of College Studies, that Blackboard course that Shelley talked about. And then there are going to be opportunities for additional follow-up conversations between Stepping Stones, Home Base, as well as the Advising Center's upcoming webinars, which will be announced shortly as well. So if you're not able to join us in person, don't fret. All of that information will come again in various forms. And typically, as we do things on the webinar format, we will record and share those out as appropriate. So if you've not yet registered but would like to do so, please feel free to scan that QR code and plan to join us on Monday. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Heather and Taylor and see if there are any questions that we can answer.
Well, thank you to Shelley, Lauren, and Miranda for covering really great information. I think this is going to be a very usable resource for our transfer families, not just now, but as they navigate the rest of the summer and think about supports for transfer students throughout the academic year. So I don't see any open Q&A at the moment. I'll give families just a few minutes. I do see one here. Just please confirm Monday start time. The website for the event says 10 a.m. So let's take a look at that transfer welcome day schedule.
So, yep, that's a great point. So to clarify, the connections piece starts at 9 a.m. Check-in starts at 9:30. First session begins at 10.
Yep, and I am going to drop in the chat right now that full transfer welcome day schedule.
Thank you.
So now's the time if you have any other questions to drop those in the Q&A, and we'll see if we can get those answered. You've got some real experts on. We have advising experts, transfer credit experts, transfer transition experience experts. So any questions that you have, I'll ask one that sometimes I experience both from transfer families and transfer students, which is, maybe this isn't our first time around. We've been at an institution of higher education before, whether 2-year or 4-year, we've been abroad, a student has been independent from us at this point in time. So I get a couple questions. One, Heather, are the emails that Family Engagement is sending to families about this summer experience relevant to transfer families? And so I see head nods, which feels great. I feel affirmed. The answer is yes, because while this may not be your first time around and this may not be your first experience with higher education, it is your first experience with William & Mary. There's so much language to learn, so many processes to learn that your student is navigating for the first time. And the transfer incoming experience looks and feels very similar process and timeline wise to the incoming new to first time in college experience. So do pay attention to those emails, do sign up for the webinars, do attend orientation, because those are wonderful opportunities for you to learn this new support system that exists for your student. But Lauren and Shelley, I'm curious what your take is on students and engaging with emails that STEP is sending and all of the resources available to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think to add words behind the head nodding, I think everything that we do is available for transfer students, and we want to encourage transfer students to participate. And plus, we also do things specifically for transfer students, right? And so for our transfer students coming up end of this month, July, the Advising Center will be hosting drop-in hours, Zoom drop-in hours, specifically for transfer students to make sure we're addressing all of their questions and concerns. Because they're coming in with a shorter timeline to graduation, because we need to make sure we have a focused schedule out the gate. So I think to answer that question, yes, everything's for transfers, and you might see some stuff as well that's also transfer specific that we want to make sure that we are giving more targeted information as well.
Yes.
Thanks, Lauren.
I know, no, you're welcome. I echo, and I think what looks a little bit different perhaps on the STEP side when we're sending out our hot topics, I think it's important for families to encourage their students to look at the language. I'm going to echo some of the language that's being used, because sometimes the way that we present material, or sometimes that we talk about policy or programming or even office structure, is going to look a little bit different than a student's prior experience. And so I think it's really easy to skim over and say, I've already done this, I've already experienced this. But I'm going to encourage you to encourage your students to take another read sometimes if they feel like it's just like my prior, because chances are it's not exactly like my prior, and there is some nuance there that we don't want them to miss. And there is a reason why we're including information in the hot topics. I'm pretty sure if I asked Kenzie not to send out a hot topic, he would be okay with me asking him not to do that, because he sends out 2 to 3 a week. But if we did that, we would be doing a disservice to our students, because there's a lot of information that we want to make sure that transfer students are aware of, and as a byproduct that families are aware of. So every informational piece that we send out to students is also shared with family engagement. So as families, you call and you say, my student got this email. They know exactly what email the students have received. Or so that they can then share it out with families in a way that feels digestible and appropriate based off the population that maybe it's most applicable towards. But making sure that your students are actually critically reading some of the sections is going to be really important, because the nuance is real. And in some cases, our requirements look a little bit different than some prior institutions potentially had.
That's great advice. Thank you, Lauren. Okay, Miranda, I have a question for you. It looks like someone did have their AP scores sent from College Board, but they don't see them on Banner. What are their next steps?
Yeah, perfect. I love that question. So before you're accepted to William and Mary, you don't have an official account with William and Mary. You're just kind of an applicant. So if you sent your scores officially during the admissions process, it's kind of in limbo because it had no account to attach to. So then once you're accepted and you have a Banner account, there's somewhere for it to go. It's not just going to automatically go there. We are going to have to go get it and put it into your account. So if you did send your official scores officially through the College Board during the admissions process and you don't see them, just reach out to the transfer credit email and say that I sent my scores during the admissions process. I don't see them. If you can provide, the receipt or like the verification so we know the exact date that they were sent on, that's really helpful in tracking them down. And just send the email and we'll be able to go in and find them and post them to your account, and we'll let you know that we've done that, and located them and posted them, and you should be able to see them immediately at that point. So just a quick email to the transfer credit to say, hey, I sent them and I don't see them because they went into limbo and they're just hanging out somewhere waiting for us to come get them and put them in the proper place.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm not seeing any other open questions, so I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up there. Shelley, Lauren, and Miranda, thank you so much for joining us today for this special edition of our Tribe Transition webinar series. Session has been recorded, will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts very shortly. So thanks again, and I will see everybody on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.